Some really big games in Pro D2 this week. These boys have had a really long drive coming from Angoulême down to Biarritz. Those beanies really annoy me, but the key issue is that we found the job for Joe should things ever go sideways in coaching. Our first game of the week is at the Rugby Stade for Van against Brive. This one was on Saturday night. Brive season's on the line really, and their away form has been dreadful. Just one win all season. So when Sione Colomiers went over for his third try in 3 games, the writing was on the wall already for Brive. Pierre Boudehon would score from close range to add to Van's lead before Brive hit back. Yanis Charcosset scampering down the blind side and scoring in the corner to give Brive a glimmer of hope. A Brive side which contained Lewis Noon, no less, son of Jamie. We all remember him and his jawline. Into the second half now, and Van would re-establish their 2-score lead. Michael Ruru tipping on to Robin Takola, who would pass to the fly half. Maxime Lafarge, who would score, dragging 3 Brive defenders with him, including Lewis Noon there in the background. 20 relatively inoffensive minutes would follow before Ben Stevenson would field a high kick and break the Brive defence, feeding on to Pierre Boudehon, and finally an offload to Michaela Alania, who would score and put the game beyond Brive. Brive would be looking at yet another away defeat. All that would remain would be to put the L'Orange on the canard, and it was Hugo Jehi who would go over to round the game off, and a convincing win for Van. No wonder their fans are happy. That's 9 wins from 9 now for Van at home, and they're looking so commanding. 8 points clear at the top of Pro D2. Off to Nevers now, and if you want to know where Nevers is, get a map of France, throw a dart right into the centre of it, and that's where Nevers is. So if you were with us for our last live game in Provence, you would have seen Sereteki Betuniata start his first game at centre. He scored a try and looked pretty incredible, and playing again at 13, it was Sereteki who would go over for the game's first try and to give Provence an 8-0 lead. Provence is a team littered with international players, and it was another one of those players, Sione Tui this time, the ex-Australia under-20 and Stade Francais player, who would cross to give the visitors a commanding lead heading into half-time. Now, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't let this clip run just slightly longer so we can see a little bit of Pro D2 bagarre. There we go. You feel like Provence's forwards are going to have more to say come playoff time, especially when they get towards Van. Scoring tries is never a problem for this side, and Pierre Lucas showed why. A beautiful flowing move and a cracking finish in the corner. Provence out of sight, and you feared for another hammering away from home for Nevers. Provence can seemingly score from anywhere. Broken play this time. Nadir Bouhadjer picking the ball up, dinking over the top. And Nevers' try-scoring machine Perry Mayo being caught out by the bounce of the ball, and Bouhadjer touching down. Game over. We had time for one more try though, and it was Sione Tui again scoring. More loose play, broken play for Provence to capitalise from, and sprinting in from 30 metres out to round the game off in style with his second try of the match, his 5th of the season. A wonderful game for Sione Tui. Provence keeping pace with Van at the top of the league. They're going to need Van to slip up if they want the top place, although you would think they're pretty much nailed on for the playoffs. Off to the big game of the week now, Carcassonne against Dax. Carcassonne looking to not be Carca-gone at the end of the year. It wouldn't be a Carcassonne game without a quick start for the Yellows. Baptiste Moreno jumping over the pile of bodies at the bottom of the ruck, scoring in the corner and giving the hosts an early lead in this relegation 6-pointer. Dax got their response in the 13th minute. A big clear out from Charlie Matthews, and somehow the ball popping into the hands of Paul Arnaud-Dorset, who would score for the visitors. Johnny McPhillips would extend Carcassonne's lead to 10 points to 5 before a world-class offload from Lucas Doyenard to Maxime Giannet would extend Carcassonne's lead. The reverse fixture in Lalonde had been won by Dax 19 points to 0. And on the 31st minute, Dax got a sniff of another victory. The wonderfully named Genesis Mamea Lamalu going over for Dax's second try of the match. Those travelling fans really appreciated that. 15 minutes left, and it was yet another Newcastle player playing in Pro D2. Who remembers this guy? Gary Graham, ex-Newcastle, England and Scotland player, giving away a penalty that would give Dax real hope going into the last quarter of the game. Romol-Segui slotting the penalty. It's never dull as a Dax fan. As early as 2008, they were playing in the Champions Cup. They were in the 3rd division in 2018, a place it looks like they're under threat of going back to. Carcassonne would hang on, 20 points to 15, a losing bonus point for Dax, not enough. Completing the relegation roundup now, it's Stade Montois who would face off against high-flying Valence Roman at the Stade Guy Boniface. And it was a proper Pro D2 start. Centre Bautista Ezcura breaking off from the maul, scoring in the corner to give the hosts a much needed lead. The more I watched this one, the more I thought that Valence had come in undercooked. And it would prove to be the case. Another try for Mont-de-Marsan, this time Alexander Donardi going over to score and give the hosts a 13-6 lead. A sticky situation for Valence. They need to keep pace at the top of Pro D2 if they want a home run in the semi-finals. And with Mont-de-Marsan down to 14 men, a huge scrum from the pack would increase their advantage. Thomas Butel sent to the bin, struggling shirt and all, to give Valence hope going into the last 15 minutes. It wouldn't take long, just 2 minutes, and Ben Nasseru would cross over in the corner, and with the converted try, a 2-point gap going into the last 10. It just wasn't to be Valence's day though. Ilya Spondarashvili giving away the penalty, hands on the floor, giving Iban Leclau the opportunity to wrap the game up for Mont-de-Marsan, which he did, although there would have been a few 50p, 5p moments as that snuck in past the left-hand post. Mont-de-Marsan would hold on, a speculative kick, ball out on the full, and Mont-de-Marsan with a victory. A bonus point for Valence, not enough when you consider that they need to keep pace with Provence at the top of the league. Now, if you want a stadium named after you, lead a club during its most successful period, just like Michel Bondachou did for Colomiers, and you'll get one named after you. Aurillac came into this one with just 1 defeat in 7 games. Colomiers strongly positioned at the top of the table, just behind Van. Enzo Rabier got the game's first try, however, his 7th of the season since signing from Bordeaux. It took 15 minutes for Colomiers to get out of bed, Jules Danglo whipping a wide pass out to Vincent Pinto, and the Portuguese international scored to reduce the deficit. Pinto there just probably letting his opposition winger know that he is watching Love Island this year. 3 points in it then, and Colomiers with the ball and looking to extend their lead. With just 3 points in it, Valentin Delpy's kick was charged down by Grégoire Bazin, and what ensued was the slowest ever recorded foot race on a rugby union pitch between Bazin and Leone Rotisalia, Hermé coming out on top to extend Oyonnax's lead. And the less said about that foot race, the better, really. A late yellow card for Oyonnax gave Colomiers hope. Matthias Asadsuk went in, and the gap was down to 11 points. Asadsuk's some player, don't be surprised if he goes higher in the French system. Colomiers would score again 3 minutes later to set up a grandstand finish. Theo Garral jiggling around and releasing Nicolas Martin, who would make it to the line. He wouldn't score though, but a quick bit of thinking by Hugo Seguela to score and reduce the gap to just 6 points. By this time, Oyonnax's head had completely gone, down to 14 men, which precipitated the comeback. Jeremy Beshu would go under the posts to bring the hosts within a point, leaving Hugo Seguela to kick the winners from virtually in front of the sticks, which he did without any hassle at all. A miracle comeback from Colomiers, and one that keeps them in touch at the top of Pro D2. Oyonnax snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Off we go to the Alps now. Grenoble against Agen. A big game last year, not so much on it this year though. You'd have the absolute super raging mega hump if you were 5 minutes late to this game, because you missed this absolute worldie from Grenoble. Hugo Trieu breaking out from his own try line and sprinting fully 70 metres. Flipping the ball on, support runners, Costa Storti involved, but an amazing cover tackle from Frank Porto prevented the Portuguese winger from scoring the first try. But Grenoble wouldn't be denied. A huge pass out wide, and Bastien Sori, who else, would be there to finish off a 400-metre move for Grenoble. Can't blame a few of the players for sucking in the big ones after that effort, a minute after coming onto the pitch. Now Rafa Costa-Storti, he's had a big impact since arriving at Grenoble, and look at this for a little piece of opportunism. And what makes my life nice and easy is nice short clips that you don't have to commentate too much on, but when these tries go in, of which there's been a couple of in this game, there's a long old chase. It's difficult because I've got to fill the gap. That was Costa-Storti's try. And right on half time, it would be Costa-Storti again. A good week to have Hugo Triou in your fantasy side if you're doing that. Another huge break. He'd feed inside to Eric Ascon, and Costa-Storti would finish off in the corner for his second of the match. Not a bad signing for Grenoble. Not sure what that sign means, but you know, who does these days? Way more tries than we can fit into a highlights package here. Sio Tompkinson, Loris Talot, Luca Tabarot in response to Triou and Quiou getting tries for the hosts. But it was this man, Rafael Costa-Storti, who would streak clear to pretty much ice the game for Grenoble. His hat-trick try, and a good response to a recent bad run of form from the men from the Alps. Late consolation tries for Agen from Dorian Bello and Dylan Kazamaju. Not enough. 45-36 to Grenoble, and a good win. Béziers next at the Stade Ray Barry. They're playing Aurillac. Now these two sides are about as reliable as Del Boy's watch. You never know which effort's going to turn up. Somehow there at the bottom of that pile, Ronan Lochnan scoring the first try of the match, and a little bit more bagarre. It took Béziers until the 12th minute to score. Jerome Defour going over from short range in a typical Pro D2 style try to bring the host within 2. And that's about your lot as far as highlights go. Aurillac gave away 11 penalties during the game, this just one of them, and it was this man, Sam Marquez, whose boot would do the damage to Aurillac, chipping that one over from very short range to give them a 22-7 victory and ease the pressure on that squad at the bottom of Pro D2. And we're back at everyone's favourite, the Christina Aguilera Thunderdome, for the visit of Soyo Angoulême to Biarritz. And we've mentioned this guy a few times in the last few weeks, Ledu Mal capitalising on a loose pass to sprint clear, intercepting and giving the visitors the lead in the 9th minute. There's a saying in cricket that bad balls take wickets. I mean, I'm slightly changing that for a PG audience, but it's similar to back play. Bad back play often leads to tries, and in this case it's Baptiste Farisio scooping up a bouncing ball to score for the hosts and bring them back level. Biarritz would go on to extend their lead, Acebes and Martinez scoring tries before Angoulême hit back, and it was their fullback Jules Dubec who broke the line and sprinted in from outside the 22. It was a really close game up to this point. The stats back it up, go and have a look if you like, and it would take a little bit of luck for Biarritz to get their noses back in front. This time it would be Andrea Sacco, the number 8, handing off in at the corner for his second try in consecutive games. Substitute Hugo Pirlet would then extend the lead to 19 points before Melvin Jaminet's big brother, Killian, intercepted the Ledu Mal pass and streaked clear to score in the corner and wrap the game up for the Basques. Christina Aguilera Thunderdome reverberating to the joys of Basque men and their red meat, and what can only be described as the most offensive full-time hooter in the game. 46-22 and a bonus point win for Biarritz. And that wraps up your action for week 17 in Pro D2. Let's have a look at the table. Vannes' lead extended out to 8 points. Provence and Colomiers the chasing pack. Valence disappointed with that loss. Oyonnax capitulation. They could have been in the mix. At the bottom, defeat for Dax brings them closer to the drop, with Mont-de-Marsan and Carcassonne both winning just a point the gap. You can see all the action from Pro D2. We'll be rounding it up again this time next week. But tomorrow night, Agen against Colomiers. Be there. Tim, Joe, chat, rugby. It's things on telly. It's the biggest game since last week, and you can see it right here on FRUK Rugby.